morning.
Good morning.
Day 8.
Day 8. How are you this fine day of days?
I'm kind of bleary today.
Why?
Tired. Well, here's the thing. My husband gets up very early. And if I'm watching a show and knitting and staying up too late, sometimes I sleep really hard and I don't even hear his alarm. But then other times I hear it and I'm like, bing, and I've only slept like 4 hours and then I'm like laying there.
Yeah.
I just stayed up too late.
Yeah.
Because I was behind on my knitting, remember? And I thought, well, I'll watch another episode. And I stayed too late.
Well, I went to bed at a decent-ish hour last night and I just automatically woke up an hour earlier. So thanks, body.
It happens when you reach a certain age.
I tried.
And I don't know how he can stand me. Because, no, seriously, I snore like an angry heifer. I'm not kidding. I've heard myself. I've woken myself up. It's not good. And they have these apps where it can record you, and you can like study your own sleep and, REM and this. And I mean, I've heard myself and it's freaking frightening. And it said, you're at risk for sleep apnea, which runs in my family. So,
yeah.
But then I went and got tested and they're like, no, you're fine. You just snore. Cause I have a deviated septum and I have also sinus polyps.
Yeah.
Particularly on one side. And when I was 5, there was a neighborhood softball game. And I was a little kid and I didn't know where not to be. And I was standing behind home plate when somebody like let go of their bat and then took off running to first. And I got smacked in the face with the bat.
Ow.
Hence the deviated septum. And here I am 50 years later. And okay, not quite. Almost. And still a problem. He sleeps through it. My kids, I guess, are used to it. But I wonder, when I go backpacking, like, what do the wild animals think? I mean, like, what do they think's going on in there?
They're like, stay away. There's some sort of monster in that tent.
Right.
Yeah.
And the gal that I backpack with claims to have never heard this hideous sound. But she's one of these people that, like, when she lays down, like 30 seconds, she's done.
That's how my husband is, too. He can sleep like almost instantly. And he's the one who snores. I'm not saying I never snore, but he's the one who's the consistent snorer. And so I have learned, though, that if I put my hand on his back or his shoulder or something.
I thought you were going to say, put my hand over his face.
Or over his face, just really tight, like really tightly. No, but I learned because, like, I don't know, like the third night we were married or something, I was lying in bed going, okay, this is going to be the third night I don't get any sleep.
What have I done?
What have I done? This was foolish. And I just sort of like put my hand on his back and he stopped instantly.
Oh.
And so that has been my thing. He falls asleep first. He starts snoring. I put my hand on his back. He stops snoring. And then I fall asleep. And then whatever happens at that point happens. Like if he snores again or whatever, I don't hear it. But
you don't wake up easily then?
No.
That's good.
Not really. Yeah.
Well, men always fall asleep first because Will used to fall asleep first and then he does have sleep apnea. And, things improved amazingly when he got his CPAP.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was operating like seriously at 80-something% oxygen. It wasn't good. It was bad. I mean, that kind of oxygen deprivation can cause organ damage. So it was good he got that taken care of. That's not my problem. But anyway, it's good that my backpacker partner falls asleep first. She always does. Because then I hear her start snoring. But she has this like little snuffle. Like it's not an angry cow sound.
It's not the full like vibrating.
No, it's just this little like snuffle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So
are you sure it's not a bear walking around your camp?
Yeah, because it follows us apparently. So I am thankful that, I have found a friend that can go that doesn't apparently hear that because, wow, my kids are used to it, but they're like, wow, Mom.
Yeah. Do you think that those apps that record your snoring so you can analyze them and hear them are really for you or are for the partner that you share a bed with to record it and say, see, I told you.
Well, I found it somewhat insightful just because it does show me like how many minutes of REM are you getting, how many minutes of, various sleep stages, and does that correlate to, like in my case, a hot flash, for
Yeah.
example?
Oh, okay.
And then does that correlate to, well, did I have a glass of wine with dinner? Well, okay, yes, because we all know that alcohol increases the hormonal hot flash surges. That's another topic. But so
Have
in
we
some
gotten far
ways,
enough into the month that we're going to start talking about menopause?
maybe. I mean, are we like a third of the way? Not quite. Okay.
Not quite.
So I don't know. Is that a parameter? Or are we supposed to wait till we're like after day 10 to
No.
start talking about chin hairs and stuff? I
People
mean,
need to get to know us better first.
I feel like if they've stuck with us for the first week, they're probably okay with it.
Probably.
Like too much information. Speaking of too much information,
we're going deep today. Okay, Jana, what is it?
you were just mentioning like Alexa, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
People didn't hear that. We had to cut because I
No,
thought
I
my
know, but
doorbell rang.
you were just mentioning that you have like some electronic stuff and like Alexa, and people have the googly thing. And well, I don't know. I don't have any of this. I don't need any of this. I'm okay getting up and turning off my own light and whatever.
So to back up, we had to pause for a minute there because I thought someone was at my door because I'd had 2 alarms go off from different devices and I didn't know what they were for. And my husband has recently set up our doorbell so that Alexa will say someone is at the door when someone pushes the doorbell.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that Alexa would ask the person, "Who are you?"
Oh, no.
Who's calling?
So we just get a notice, but it's one of those
want?
video ones. It's a video doorbell.
Okay.
So when the doorbell gets pushed, my husband gets an alert to his phone and he can turn on the video and see who it is, whether it's a delivery or whatever. It's always a delivery.
When
No one
he's
comes
like
to see
in
us.
another country.
But he's in another country right now. So, and it drove me crazy. Because he would just be out doing errands. We talked yesterday about how he gets antsy. So he's the one who goes and does errands.
Right.
So I'd be home and the doorbell would ring and he'd be at the grocery store. And I'm like, can I have a doorbell, please? Because we were like missing deliveries, things we had to sign for and stuff.
So you wanted the app to tell you about it?
Well, so that was his solution, was to get one that connects with Alexa. So now Alexa will say there's someone at the door when someone pushes the doorbell.
So do you not have a doorbell that you can actually hear in the house?
No, it was broken. And this is how my husband decided to fix it, because also we do travel a lot. And so this is built into like a camera system where we can keep an eye on the house too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have bears walk through the yards and they trigger the video and then we have cool bear videos.
That's true. It's like a trail cam.
Yeah. So we get all kinds of benefits.
UPS and bears.
UPS and bears. There's the title of the show for today, Jana.
I just think it's interesting how, like, remember that book, 1984, George Orwell? Yes. And it was all about, Big Brother's watching, blah, blah, blah. Well, now we've invited Big Brother into our homes.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't really like it. I would rather not. I'd rather have a doorbell that works.
Yeah.
I would, and then we could have like a video on the back of the house or whatever.
You could fix the doorbell. It cannot be that difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. But my husband is like all into, like, we are opposite ends of the spectrum with this. As far as like, he wants all the newest tech and I'm just like, can I just have a doorbell? Like,
my doorbell doesn't work either. But people just knock. Or, I have a dog. Doesn't Max bark when someone comes to the door?
Oh, well, if he's on duty. So after a certain time, he is off duty and he'll just not worry about things. And then it won't be until he sleeps with my oldest. And when my oldest is up for the day, then he'll go back on duty and he'll start barking at things.
And he's little.
As long as he is on my oldest's bed, he is like, I am off duty. You all are on your own. Good luck not dying.
Okay.
Should we open?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go first today? I want to show me your progress and
okay, well, here's the thing. Remember how yesterday I said I had a lot to do? Like I only had, maybe a third of whatever I was supposed to have done. And then I knitted through all of that. And then I started on, yesterday's yarn. But then it got, like I said, it got to be like midnight. And I was like about to fall asleep while knitting. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure our viewers will understand. I'm not losing sleep over this any longer. So I did not complete my task for yesterday, but I have enough to show you possibly.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, I apologize for being behind, but life. I didn't have as much knitting time yesterday as I had hoped.
And I'm going to give a preview of, I'm making you record tomorrow's one today. So you're not going to have any progress between now and the next one either. So,
but that's okay. Then I'll have a lot.
You should have a lot. Yes.
Okay. So can you see where it started? Like,
hold it like
right
it's
here.
Hard to tell.
It's right above this eyelet row is where the new, yeah, you can tell. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right above this eyelet row is where the new day begins. And it's going to blend in really well. So that's good that you can't even hardly tell.
Still getting that really
subtle
progression.
So
nice.
I have a lot to do.
Step away. Good. Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Open today's. I want to see today's.
Today we have Knotty Pine Fibers. Let's make sure I'm
show me the sticker, and then I'm going to guess where they're from.
Oh, it'll be easy.
That's okay. Maybe it won't be for me.
Okay, Knotty Pine Fiber Company. It might not be easy for all you Eastern people, but everybody in the West will know.
Oh, is that a buffalo?
No.
What is that?
It's a bison.
Oh, a bison. Yeah. Well, I'm from the East. We call them buffaloes.
I know, but it's not the same thing.
So Knotty Pine?
Knotty Pine Fiber Company there in Wyoming.
And you were going to let me guess.
Oh, sorry. Should we re-record that and you could guess?
No.
I mean, I thought that was pretty obvious since the bison is on the state flag.
Well, but there's bison all over the West, right?
I know, but you always hear the idiot videos about people doing stupid things in Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. I mean, I probably would have guessed Montana because I wouldn't have thought that big of a jump between Minnesota all the way to Wyoming.
Yeah, well, it's only skipping really one state, the Dakotas.
Yeah. Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, okay, personal pet peeve. Can I just say this real quick?
Sure, please do.
It is a bison, not a buffalo.
That's fine.
Yeah. No. I'm telling viewers, if you don't already know this, there are no buffalo in North America.
The buffalo live in Asia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bison. American bison.
Those are bison.
Anyway, I have to say I'm really happy about this because this is from Kayla at Knotty Pine Fiber Company. And I sort of stalk her on Instagram. I think her fades. Are you getting a text?
No, I'm looking at my finger and I think I have poison ivy.
What?
What the heck? I haven't even been outside. How did I get poison ivy?
Did Max bring it in?
Maybe he did.
Max the dog? He could have
I just happened to itch my finger and was like, oh, that's a bump, and looked down and I have one little bump of poison ivy on my finger. This is how allergic to poison ivy I am. It is ridiculous.
So if we're recording 2, we won't know if it's really poison ivy until a day after
it's tomorrow. Poison ivy. It's poison ivy.
How do you know that?
It's just a little tiny bump. I'll put some medicine on it and be annoyed for a week. Sorry. Please continue telling me about the yarn company. I apologize for that digression.
Okay. Back to the yarn. So I have to say I stalk Kayla at Knotty Pine Fibers because I think that she does a really good series. She's into like more earthy natural colors, and her fade progression is
chef's kiss. Okay, show me, open, show me.
So if you ever get a chance to get a hold of like one of her mini sets, for example, or her fade kits, do it.
Take advantage.
Ooh.
Oh, that's quite a jump in our fade.
Yes, Bighorn Sock Mini. So all of her stuff is named after places in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Bighorns are the Bighorn Mountains. They're west of Buffalo, Wyoming. Yes, I know. That's an ironic name.
Bison. Excuse me. You know, in Asia, we don't even call them buffalo. In the Philippines, they call them carabao. So
anyway.
Who named him buffalo?
This is Bighorn River is the name of this colorway.
That's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
That is right up my alley.
I know. You would love her stuff. You should go stalk her on Instagram.
I might need to.
Knotty Pine Fiber Co.
Knotty Pine. Excuse me as I look at my phone for a moment and
find the Instagram. I know, and I wanted to interview her, but our schedules just didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Knotty Pine Fiber Co.
And despite that,
oh wow.
I know. Despite that on the Indian Tangled site it says Thermopolis, Wyoming, she's actually from Douglas. Which is because she has included a card in her package, so it does say Douglas. And she has a YouTube, also Knotty Pine Podcast.
Nice. Her stuff
Knotty Pine Fiber Co. on Instagram.
It's all like that rusty brownie, naturally.
I know.
Gorgeous.
I did not have a chance to get her Advent kit this year, but I might be looking at it for next year. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So we are day 8. Woo, day 8. Can I just say I had someone message me last night saying she couldn't handle it anymore and she opened the rest of it all.
And then I saw a comment.
Good for you. If you're watching, that's fine.
You do you.
You do you. Oh, this is this color.
Ooh.
So this is Rowanberry Heath. So this is a nice burnt orange. So let me
hold them all.
I'll hold them all so far. And I will say there's one more color coming.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So this blue here and the yellow are on the same base, and all the others are on the same base as each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have one more color coming tomorrow.
And then you'll be able to do the pattern.
The day after, on day 10.
Yay.
No, very exciting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I love this orange.
And today we have our interview with Ronnie.
With Ronnie, who is the owner of Uradale Yarns /farm, where he raises 100% Shetland breed sheep, organically raised. The process, the cleaning process for the wool and the milling process is all organic.
Nice.
The dye process is all environmentally friendly. They have a lot of stuff like on their YouTube channel and stuff talking about it. And I think we talk about it in the interview too.
Yep.
I just love, this is, am I going to say it? I hate to say it because I don't like to make other yarns feel bad, but I will say this. This is one of my top 5 yarns.
Okay. Now that's saying quite a bit. Top 5 is.
This is a solid top 5 for me.
Cool.
Yeah. I love this yarn. So you're going to get to hear from Ronnie, who's one of my favorite people. And yeah, everybody, I hope you enjoy that.
Okay.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
So we are here today with Ronnie Eunson, who has been active in the organic wool movement in Shetland for years now, first with Shetland Organics and now with Uradale Yarns. Their wool is from pure Shetland breed sheep raised with land-friendly organic grazing practices and processed on the Scottish mainland at New Lanark Mill. And we are so glad to have you here with us, Ronnie. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I was curious if you could tell us what prompted you to make the shift into organic farming.
Well, it started about 20 odd years ago when I decided that the conventional type of farming wasn't something that I felt was sustainable in the long term. At the time, we were producing just meats, and the accepted farm agricultural production here was that you kept cows and sheep and you had lambs and calves, and then the lambs at maybe 4 months, 5 months of age were then shipped away to farmers down in Scotland, who would then fatten them for the trade maybe about Easter time the next year.
Right.
And the cattle were much the same, and it was a very much a sort of government design way of doing things, and I didn't like it. I thought that the whole thing was far too volatile and encouraged the Shetland producers to operate in a very inefficient fashion. Because they were having to buy very expensive feeding and lots of fertilizer in order to produce what the market wanted, which of course was based on size and quantity. And anyway, about 20 odd years ago, I was searching around for a different direction, and I always wanted to do things with the native breeds because, to my mind, they're much more developed and sophisticated than the modern breeds. It's rather contrary to perceived wisdom, but perceived wisdom is not what it can be. So I found a market in London for our little native lambs just through luck more than anything else, and developed a bit of a relationship with the man who owned the business there. 20 odd years later, we're still trading, and his advice to me at that time was that if I wanted to maintain the trade with him, he would prefer if I could hang an organic label on it as well, because he was in a very posh part of London, and being organic was seen to be, I guess, de rigueur in that area. And so it wasn't difficult to convert. What was much more difficult was to try to define a working system when you have less than 100 growing days in a year,
Right.
which contrasts to the origin of the organic movement is down in the south of England, where they'll have 350 days plus where things grow. So it was quite a difficult one to figure out how it was going to work with us. Yes, we could sell the lamb. Yes, it was appreciated. Yes, organic helped maintain the market credentials. But when it came to the actual working of the system on the land, it was quite a learning curve, and not the easiest thing to get used to.
And so that's interesting. That was my next question is, and I know a little bit, only a little about Shetland sheep, but my mother had Shetland sheep here for about 10 years. And they're very, very cold hardy and can handle the winters here as well as, the short growing season like you're discussing. And so what else do you find that makes them so well suited to your climate and your environment?
Native breeds, well, the likes of the Shetland one, and I guess it applies to most of the Shetland is part of the northern short-tailed type of sheep,
Right.
and most of them have this feature where when conditions get really hard, they switch off. It's like a sort of move in hibernation, because they still move, but they don't really do anything. And that's because if you ever slaughter them and you look inside the carcass, then you'll find that they store their fat around the vital organs, principally the liver and the kidneys. And that gives them access to the type of energy that they require if there's a heavy snowfall or if there's a period of gales and storms. And so they have this sort of survival kit that the other breeds simply don't have.
Right.
And
Right.
it was all about trying to define a system where you reach the balance between the habitat, the amount of vegetation it produced naturally, and what the sheep needed to prosper on, because there's a sort of level where they survive, and then there's a level where they've got that little bit more condition, and they can bring their lambs on to a better condition. So it's finding that balance. I mean, if I can give you an example, we before I was organic, we would have carried 1,200 sheep, and now we're down to 350.
Okay.
And part of the reason for that is because we if there are lambs that don't finish for slaughter at the time when certain markets are available, we don't sort of rush out with feeding to them. What we do is we leave them to just grow naturally, so that they grow with the seasons.
Right.
And so the condition, the fatness of them has to last them through the winter. It's impossible to start feeding these animals. For one thing, it disrupts their whole grazing pattern. If you enclose them and confine them, then it adds to the general stress.
Yes.
And that's not helpful.
Right. So rather than doing that, you're leaving them with their mothers to wean naturally, and you're not weaning them artificially and bringing them into a pen where you're feeding them. They're just left to do their own thing and growing naturally.
Yeah, we tend to wean off the males, and we leave the females, a lot of the females, because then the female lambs can travel along with the mother and the grandmother and the great-grandmother over the hills and learn about the topography and where to go when the wind shifts and so on and so on. So a lot of people don't credit sheep with brains, but I'm certainly going along the lines that certain types of sheep have better brains than others.
Oh yes, oh yes. I would argue that certain cattle are that way as well.
Yeah, I would say.
In my personal experience, I've found that. Yes, for sure. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So you have the organic practices now on the farm there, and as you are having the wool processed, you've sort of carried on with that as much as possible. Do you want to tell us about how your wool is processed and the mill that you're using?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it starts with the shearing, and that'll happen sort of July-ish. All depends on the weather and how things look. And then once the wool is off, then we separate it into the different colors that we want to keep separate. So basically, if things get mixed up, then you can't recreate either white or black. Right. So we keep those at two ends of the spectrum, and then we work in between. And I go through the fleeces and rebag them all according to what I think their suitability is. And then one day a truck comes and I load all these bales of wool aboard it. It sets off and it ends up in Bradford, where every few months a company there does an organic scour. And the organic scour basically means that they don't use bleach.
Right.
And the issue with the scouring is that it's quite expensive because of the smaller quantities. All these scourers now are huge companies, scouring vast amounts of wool. So It's quite an expensive job to get your own wool washed, but they wash it in the different lots that I send it down in. It's dried, and then I get another vehicle to take it from there to Mulark Spinning Mill, and once it's there, it's there's a chain of traceability right through the whole system, so that the wool that I put from here is guaranteed to be the wool that I get back.
I was going to ask you about that. That's great.
Yeah, no, with organics, then you have to learn to make the system work for you.
Right.
And one of the issues with spinning wool nowadays is, depending on who you go to get it spun, you're never terribly sure whether it's your own you get back.
Right.
And so through the organic system, the scorer has to log each weight as it comes in, each bag, and then log it out again. So you lose about 50% weight in the wash. That's mostly just peat and vegetation that comes off there, because I try to clean the fleeces as we go along.
Right.
Then at the mill, they end up with these bells of various colors, and lately the emphasis has been on producing what we call jumper weight. I think you call it fingering.
Yeah.
And so the foreman at the mill will phone me up and say, well, what do you want with this and what do you want with that?
Okay.
And they spin it there on their spinning mule, which is a very old piece of machinery dating back to 1891. And once it's spun, then I have quite a friendly relationship with a dyer, organic dyer down in Yorkshire, and I get it sent down to him, and he holds it until I say, well, we need this color and that color and whatever.
Okay.
There's organic accredited dyeing there. It's not vegetable dyeing, it's a chemical dyeing, but have any heavy metals in it. And that's been very successful, because he doesn't just give you 10 colors of pink. He tends to come up with suggestions about what to do with, because when we get things spun, then because the blend of the natural colors is down to the judgment of the spinner. When he opens the bale, he can see the white. That's okay. That's no problem. He can see the black, but then the various shades of grey and fawn, then he has to take a sort of professional judgment as to how much to blend to get, say, a very light fawn, a medium fawn, a darker fawn, but it's all about taking so much murret and adding it to with maybe some white or whatever way so it's not an exact science. This compares and contrasts with sort of the larger spinning mills, where you basically, they only really want white wool, and then they dye all the other colors to fit. So ours does vary from year to year, because the sheep are not always the same,
right.
And the spinner's judgment is not a formula. It's what he thinks on the day. So all these different colors then come down to the dyer, and then he makes a judgment on how to use his dyes to achieve what we would like him to be able to do.
So when you first started, how many colors did you have when you first began compared to how many colors you have now?
It was when we first began. Then I'd sort of adopted what I thought was the wisdom of the day, and you only dyed white. And it was only through time that we came to see that that this wasn't really very nice. You could dye all these fancy colors, but then so could everybody else. And what we wanted to do was produce something that was much more characteristic of Shetland. And Shetland is a place where the weather can have severe contrasts, but the colors that you see tend to blend, and they're not harsh to the eye. So we wanted to achieve a range of dyed colors that were much more sympathetic to the place. So yeah, that's how we set out to create the palette. The original palette was just yellow, red, blue, green, on white, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think we wanted to do something slightly more interesting, because at the end of the day, to retain a kind of business in the wool world, where there is such a lot of wool in the world, okay, there's quite a lot of Shetland wool in the world. So how do you create a product that retains a point of difference? And the point of difference was by trying to emulate the natural colors here in Shetland, rather than some kind of fantastic paint shade card.
Right. And I'm going to have to get some of this.
Yeah, you do. It's wonderful stuff.
I'm pretty sure they'll send me some yarn if I just go order. It might take.
They do ship to the U.S.
Yeah, it might take a while to get here, but that'd be all right.
Yeah, this is their first clip. So this is lamb's wool from
yes,
green, and it's so lovely and nice. And you can still get the natural shades. They have all the natural shades available. And then, as Ronnie was saying, like they dye onto those different natural shades and get different effects. So it's really beautiful stuff. Not many people are doing that, where they're dyeing on the different shaded wools. It adds really nice depth to
and the only thing I haven't dyed, the only thing we've done is, the hand cards. My mother is a hand spinner. And so when she had her Shetland sheep, we still have the fleeces, and we would just blend, by hand and make different shades of moret and gray and, fawn. And we just would do that by hand and very small, just to experiment and play with that.
No, I understand more about knitters and what motivates them and excites them now than when I first started. But I recognize that we can't be too laissez-faire about how we produce things, because then we have absolutely no consistency. And it's very important that if somebody likes juniper heath as a dark blue, that within the boundaries of acceptability we're able to reproduce that, because otherwise the website comes to be selling on the website just comes to be a nightmare. I mean, every time we do a new dye, and then it's always the case that we have to sort of refresh things and make folk aware, well, that was the old batch and this is the new batch, and if you order for a jumper, then please order enough, because then otherwise you're getting stripes.
Yes, definitely.
Ronnie, is there anything coming up in the new year for the farm or for the yarns that you're able to share with us?
Who knows? I don't know how to answer that one. I hardly know what's happening tomorrow, and never mind next year.
The nature of farming.
You've got youth on your side, Anne, you see. So That's I tend to view things slightly differently. Uh, we, we have some new colors that we've been looking at. Something just to add a little bit more variety to the color schemes. Folk often come with suggestions. Why don't you do this and do that? But we really only we have one spinning in a year, and therefore we have to deal with that clip through the year, and we'll probably do maybe 3 die-ins in a year, and so sort of one big one, and then we'll find that some color that we thought nobody would like, that suddenly becomes a bit popular, and so then we have to do more of it, and then there'll be some issues, but some color turns out to look a bit different from where it was supposed to, so we have to sort of take that into account. And yeah, so we only here we only have our wool and a friend's wool, who's also organic, and so the amount that we do is limited.
Right.
And that's unlikely to be changing, I think. The sort of theory behind modern business is that you continually get bigger. But as old friend said to me one time, a pretty fire warms you, but a big fire can burn you. So
yes.
Wise words.
Yes, your friend is wise. Yes, definitely.
He lived in a very cold house, though.
But he wore wool, I'm sure.
Only under his boiler suit.
That's wonderful.
Ronnie, thank you so much for spending this time with us and introducing us to a little bit more deeply to your wool and the practices there at Uradale Farms.
Well, thank you for being interested. It's a privilege.
We'll put all the links and all the information about Uradale down below in the video description so people can go and check it out. And thank you so much for joining us. It's delightful to meet you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for speaking to me.